Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be doing working with the pyramids, and you will be able to work on 11.6. Today students will be able to find the volume of pyramids and prisms. And so let's start with the very basic rectangular prism. And basically for the volume of a prism is just the base times the height, but when we refer to the base, remember that the capital B represents the area of the base. Okay, so in this case, what kind of base do we have? Well, it's this part right here, which is a rectangle, and so this is a rectangular prism. Rectangular prism. And so again, the capital B represents area of the base. And so for the area of a rectangle is base times height. So we're gonna put 2 times 3. Somebody says, teacher, can that be the base and that's the height? Okay, let's put 3 times 2. And then the height of the prism, okay, which is going to be 6. So that's going to be 3 times 2 is 6 times 6. And so the volume is 6 times 6 is 36 cubic centimeters. And the reason for which is cubic is because it has 3 dimensions. It has length, it has width, and it has height. Okay, and so those are the 3 dimensions that we're including. In fact, some people said that the volume, they can see it as length times width times height. So it's 2 different ways of seeing that, and you can use either one. The length will be the 3, the width will be the 2, and the height will be the 6. We're using this one because basically we just learned the cylinder with the area of the base, which is a circle, and we're going to be looking at other kinds of prisms. Okay, so sometimes you know how this one is standing up? Sometimes the prism is not going to be standing up and it's going to just like fall on its side. And that's what happened to this one, okay? Not only that, but it's not always, the base is not always going to be a rectangle, like in this case. If you can see, from the bottom of this side, say like the floor basically, going all the way to this side, meaning the ceiling, it looks like that line is in the middle, okay? So that's gonna be how high this, or the height of this figure, which is going to be our base. So what kind of figure is this one right here? Well, I'm gonna draw it out here, and I think I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it looks kind of like this. So we can say that that's gonna be a parallelogram. And so the base is 6, this side is 8, and the height of that side, so it's like going in the room, you know, the ceiling is the same distance from the floor, either in the middle or towards this wall or towards that wall. So that 5 can also be said to be in here like this, okay, or in here. So we can say that that 5 is the same as this. So that's a parallelogram, and again, for the volume, it's gonna be the same, base times the height. But we're looking for the area of the base. The base is a parallelogram, and so we're gonna have the base times height. This is little b, lowercase b, which represents the base or length, and then times the height. So this is not the same height as this one. This is the height of the prism, but this is the height of the parallelogram, okay? Again, we're looking for the area of this shape right here, this front part, which is our base. Okay, and so the area of that section is going to be 6. The height of that base is going to be 5. And so, or that parallelogram, 6 times 5 is 30. So basically, that's the area of that times the height, which is 10. That's the height of the prism, okay? If it was standing up, that's how tall it would be, okay? So again, it fell on its side, so now that's the height, okay? So now, again, this is the area, and I'm just gonna repeat that. 6 times 5 is 6 times height from here. 6 times 5. And the height is the height of the prism, which is 10. I'm just repeating this part from here. And 6 times 5 is 30 times 10 from the height of the prism. And 30 times 10, 300. Since we don't have a unit of measurement, we're just going to put cubic units. And so that will be the answer. Okay? So hopefully it's not confusing. Now, some people said, how do I know which one is the base? It's going to be a little bit more clear in a minute with the next one. Okay? Okay. So, in here we have a triangular prism. Now, in here, we can see which one is the base. Is it laying down? Is it tilted on the side? So let me show you. In here, we have a triangle. In here, we have another triangle. Whenever we have two of the same, that's gonna be our base. So basically that's standing in, it's a triangle at the bottom and a triangle on the top. Just like we did with the cylinders. You have a circle at the bottom and a circle on the top, okay, for those cylinders. So the same thing here, this would be actually standing up. The bottom will be a triangle and the top as well. So those are that's the base. So the volume is going to be base times height. Again, this stands for the area of the base, okay? Area of the base. And the base is a triangle, so the area of a triangle is always base times height divided by 2. Remember that this base and this height stand for only the area of that triangle, ignoring that part. And this height is the height of the prism, okay, of the whole thing. Okay, so now that we have that, so it would be base times height divided by 2, and hopefully you don't get confused with this. This is the height of the prism. This is the height of just the flat shape, meaning the base. Okay, so why do we have divided by 2? And you know what? I'm gonna bring something that I use really fast in the class. It was actually scratch paper that I was using. So I have this scratch paper, and so this is just a piece of paper, and what I did was to cut it in half. Because somebody was asking me, why do we divide by 2? Well, in here, whenever you're finding the area of the whole rectangle or a square, you just multiply side by side, or length times width, or they also call it base times height, okay? That's for the whole area. But whenever we're talking about a triangle, triangle comes in, basically comes from a rectangle, but you cut it into 2 different pieces. And notice what happens when you cut it into 2 different pieces. You get 2 exact, well, with a lot of imagination because it's not perfect, but you get 2 of the same area. So that's why when you have a triangle, it's going to be base times height divided by 2. And so let's find the area of this shape right here, just the flat triangle. And so the base is 4. The height of the triangle, okay, how tall is the triangle? Well, it can be this tilted side, but rather it's going to be always perpendicular to the base, always perpendicular. Since we don't have it in here, they decided to put it here, so it's going to be 6 divided by 2, and so that's going to give me the area of this triangle. But again, remember that for a volume, it's always the area of the base, which is going to come from that, times the height of the prism, which is going to be this tallness, okay? If you put it up, the 12 is going to be standing 12 centimeters, which is going to be my height. So in here, I'm going to multiply 4 times 6 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. Bring down the 12 of the height of the prism. And so 12 times 12 is 144 cubic centimeters. Okay. Okay, so on a separate video, you're going to see a demonstration of pyramids and cones and why they are divided by 3. But the volume of a cone and a pyramid is always divided by 3. So volume is equals to the base, again, because it's capital, it's going to be the area of the base, times the height, but you have to divide by 3. And so, again, there are several videos on YouTube which demonstrates why or how the area of the volume of a pyramid compares to a prism that is the same base with the same height, but it's a prism, just like the ones we saw at the beginning of this lesson. And so we divide by 3 whenever there is a peak at the top, okay? Whenever these connect at one point, okay? Same for the cones. Okay, they connect or they have a little peak at the top. So whenever you have a peak, that's when you divide by 3. Somebody got confused in class and said, but how come you divided by 2 in here? Because we were talking about the area of a triangle, not a volume, what goes inside, the space inside of this 3-dimensional figure, but rather the area of a flat shape, just a triangle. So for triangles, the area you divide by 2. For volumes of a pyramid or a cone, you divide by 3. And I also share that another way of seeing it is the same thing as 1/3 base times height. Okay, it's the same thing when you multiply by 1/3 or divide by the 3. Okay, now that we have that clear, the base means the area of the base. Okay, remember that capital B always means area of base. The base in here is a square, so it's going to be 4 times 4. Not divided by 2 because it's not a triangle at the bottom. And then the height is the tallness of the pyramid, which is 6. And finally, we divide by 3. Again, you will see the demonstration in a separate video. And so here 4 times 4 is 16 times 6 divided by 3. 16 times 6 is 96 divided by 3. And you can say 6 times 6 is 36, carry 3. Then 6 times 1 is 6, and 3 is 9. Okay. Finally, 9 divided by 3 is 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. and the unit of measurement is cubic inches. So that's going to be the volume. That's how much space there is inside of this pyramid. I was going to say something else. If you decide, because sometimes when we go to college, classes go a little faster, and so you want to make sure that you find easier ways to solve. So if you have something like this, you can actually do a shortcut. Whenever you have only multiplication with division together, okay? If you have like addition and subtraction, that makes a difference. So if you have a multiplication and then that becomes a big number, and then the big number divided by 3 like we did in here, but there is also something that you can do, which is get one of the factors in the numerator and divide by the denominator. And so you get 16 times, and then 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 2 times 16 is 32. So you notice that you get the same answer. Okay, so that's just a shortcut that you can use to be able to work with numbers a little faster if you are not allowed to use a calculator. Again, if you are multiplying several numbers, even if it's 5 of them or 3 or 2, but one of them is divisible by the denominator, you just divide that number and put it in there, and then bring the other ones and start multiplying. Okay, so with this, you're now able to do 11.6 and have fun.